Hey, look at that. It's Mr. Wargaming, and it's his good buddy, Biscotti. Great. So 2 minutes and nothing. Hey, sweetheart. That's our mascot here in the House of Wargaming. As you can see, I'm here in the command center. I am getting set up here in a little bit. We'll take a look at this terrain shortly for either some fantasy bigger battles or some Dragon and Rampant. And to that end, I want to show you what I've been working on. But as I said, I don't often make promises. So Pirates, I've been promising for a couple of years. This is a Merrimack Miniatures. It's a resin little Zebek. So I think this does it go down like that maybe, or is it up? I got to do the research. Nice big yellow and red sail will go on there. Now this is more of an Age of Sail. So it comes with some Barbary pirates. You can't really see it through in the bag still. They're armed with bows. It's going to make a fine pirate ship once I dump a couple of cannons on there. I also have a much larger. Now, this is a modern figure. This old boy was gathering dust in a basement of a bookshop in South Bend, Indiana for probably two and a half decades. This I ordered from Blue Moon Manufacturing. That's Old Glory. And man, what a nightmare. All of these portholes were completely filled in with resin. Very thin, but it took me probably an hour to carve out, and it's not even that great. It's not that level. In fact, there's one of them here. You're not going to be able to see it, but if you look at the prow here, let's get that up on the camera. You can see, even with this horrible camera, you can see how bubbly it is. You have a vague shape of, the woman calling the seas, but man, I don't know. And then the other thing is there's no instruction. So if you're new to the Age of Sail, it does come with dowels cut to fit, but I'm not sure which of these goes in the front. I'm not sure where these things go. I mean, I'm not completely stupid. So I do understand that the steering wheel, the helm, if you will, there's a little hole. It's going to require some drill out, but it was just, I don't know, man. I'm not a big fan of 3D printing, but it's got to be better. Oh, it does come with a couple of crow's nests. So it's not a bad miniature, but then check this out. I'll show you one other thing that's kind of annoying. It does come with a nice handrail for the upper deck, but this handrail it's either too short or too long, because it's too short to fit in the gap, but it's too long for you to install a set of stairs, which, I mean, you don't need stairs on the deck or something like this. They're just going to get in the way of the playable space, but I don't know. It's going to look great when it's done because I'm very good at that kind of thing. When it comes to covering up mistakes, I have 4.5 almost 5 decades of experience. So that's a big one. And the reason I'm doing that now is I finally am about to have a place to store those. I'm going to put a couple little shelves here up above the table, and it's going to be nice with a couple of ships. And of course, I have the resin model. Superfan Dan sent me I don't know what they call it, say free trader from Coruscant Miniature. So I'm going to paint that, get that up on the wall as well. But again, I got to get the shelves up. That is good stuff. I am going to be doing a giveaway here on the stream at some point. Now, I didn't advertise this because what we're doing here is not, it's time to grow the channel and I got to bribe people to subscribe and then never watch. That's not what we're doing here, okay? We're just doing like a hobby hangout. I got a book here that I really want you guys to read. It's called Thune's Vision. Now, I first glommed onto this years and years ago. It's been revised. It's been updated. It's absolutely wonderful. Sky Hernstrom is one of the best authors working together. He is the fiction secret that not enough people know about. In the interest of full disclosure, I work with Pylon Press, and you can see here, Durando, Hernstrom, Johnson, and Mollison. This is the penultimate men. If you are a fan of Gamma World, read this book. Aside from the books listed in Appendix N of the first edition Dungeon Master Guide, this is probably the purest representation of Gamma World in fiction that you are going to find on the bookshelves. So that's by way of, hey, I highly recommend this. But at some point later on in the channel, in the stream, when we've got enough people, we're just going to figure out who I'm going to send this book to. And you are going to thank me for it because it is amazing. Fornelius, Charles Latora, Planet Tabor, Eric Hanscom in the house. Thanks for joining us on the stream. What have we talked about? Right. So let's talk a little bit about fantasy terrain. I was down at the Walmart when I saw this bad boy. And I thought, man, that's really big compared to, let's take a little comparison here for don't worry guys, we're not going full stonecutter. There's a 15 millimeter miniature. It's enormous. The bones of a dragon. And it's only like $12. This is in the pet department. It's so your pet snake can climb through. I don't think it's made for aquariums. Don't look at the fish stuff. So that was kind of fun. But they have another one that I got clever. And take a look at this. They have a saber-toothed tiger. And it looks a little something like this. Now, once again, well, you can see it's in two pieces. So that's how you buy it. When you buy it, it looks like this. And again, I'm going to grab a little 15 millimeter mummy this time to show you how big it is in scale, right? And I said, hey, this is way too big. I don't know. I'm going to store that. And if I dump that on the table, the jaw looks, so I scored it and I broke it. And now I've got two pieces of terrain. I've got the lower jaw, which if we take a look at that lower jaw, it's got, you're basically blocked out. So I don't know whether you want to call that rough going. I don't know whether that blocks line of sight. Again, if we look at it, some places do, some places don't. Naturally, I don't know if you can hear that. My neighbor has been doing construction until 5 o'clock when his crew goes home. And my neighbor on the other side comes from his job and decides it's time for some do-it-yourself power tools for days. I'm so glad I bought a house in the country. Right. So again, this is for reptiles. And then what I did to make it look a little bit better. If you look here at the break point for the upper portion of the skull, you can see where that resin is. And I wanted to hide that a little bit. So I went ahead and just touched it up with some paint to kind of match the paint scheme. And now I have another two. So for about $25, I got three really big terrain pieces that are going to make the world look like an undead place, which is good because the other big thing that I've been working on, and you're going to see a few battle reports using this undead army. And we'll come in nice and tight here in the center. There we go. So hopefully we can get this thing to zoom in and show you. The guy in gray here, this is our necromancer, our necromancer. He is from Splintered Light. And he is accompanied by, I think the rest of these figures are all from alternative armies. And I had a handful of each of these kinds of figures already for 15 millimeter fantasy skirmish wargaming. I said, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and get a bunch of packs. So if we look here, we've got a total of 32. I've got like 40 of these zombies. And I even mixed in a few zombies from, I think is like a Splinter Light or some of the, all right. So Alternative Armies has a number of different like fantasy lines. One of them is for tabletop and they have zombies in there. I think the zombies are also part of like a cult line. So it adds a little bit more flavor. If you buy just the straight pack, like this guy here is carrying this zombie is carrying some kind of a sword. And so just by mixing in, or maybe he's like I think he's part of a cult and he's just supposed to be a degenerate, but I gave him the bright green skin because it really does. I mean, in 15 millimeter, you need to take advantage of every little trick that you can in order to communicate at arm's length. These are zombies. They've only got about 4 sculpts. You know, you get like 7 and 9 of each sculpt. And then I threw in probably about eight of the individual oddball boys, like the ones I showed you. Like this guy here, I think he's holding a bone, a big old bone. So and he's got an axe in his head. So you just throw in a few of those, mix up the color scheme. They look great. And then we have a mix of, some of these, oh, you know what? I take it back. I think this guy is from Coruscant Miniatures. Some of these guys might be. So what we have here are, you know, we have a unit of scouts. We have our leader with his elite. And then I've got so many spearmen. You can't even believe it. I've got a total of 4 units of spearmen. All together, we're looking at about 40 AP of figures. They paint up so quick. I painted like 80 of these guys in a week. 15 millimeter is the best. I do have a unit right here in the back that you can kind of see. Let's bring it up to the center of shooters. They have, some of them have bows, some of them have crossbows. Hey, they're skeletons. They're not exactly marksmen. We're going to treat them as light shooters. Yeah, this is me in all my Technicolor glory. Again, the channel's not necessarily about me. It's really just kind of a hobby hangout. These are the hands, right? Just to kind of prove that's true. And there's the rosary. So it's really me. A couple of people have said, I want to see your face more because I really want to make that like human connection, which is fine, I suppose. But I don't know. A lot of like, we speak frankly about wargaming YouTube these days? The problem is mine, right? I've decided that what I'm into is a hobby that's full of nerds, and then I spend half my time complaining because the hobby is full of nerds. But there's a lot of YouTube that is just completely unwatchable because you ever notice how you've never seen my tonsils, right? I'm not doing the gap mouth. I'm not even going to do it here on the stream because I don't need somebody taking a screen cap. Not going to do it. I mean, this little Zebek is awesome, and it was only like $13, but you don't need to see my tonsils over it, guys. I'm not into whatever the latest cause du jour is. Oh, is the wrong country invaded the wrong country? It wasn't a matter. Forget it. Not interested. Not interested. I know what month it is. This is the month of the Sacred Heart, and literally nothing else. Now, YouTube doesn't like me for that. I have to be very careful how I talk about some of this stuff, but that's because we were warned, right? If you're doing right, if you're following the man on the cross, then the world is going to hate you. You're not going to get a whole lot of support. I'm okay with that. Hey, one more thing. Now, by the way, this will be an Ask Me Anything. Boy, Planet Tabor, you want to see some irony. We're almost there. This is a book called Wargaming on a Budget by Ian Dickey. It is a wonderful book. I really like this book. It has information on making your own molds using, let's see, it's got some color plates in here. Yeah, look at this. So it walks you through using Legos to make a mold, and then you push your figure in there, and it tells you how to use soldering iron, or not soldering iron, what do you call it? It's like the plumbing solder to make your own figures. And there you go, right there. See, there's the mold that you make out of it. You make the clay mold, and then you just pour the stuff in. He's got information on how to make, a little cheap gaming table, how to do wire trees. I'm just showing you the color stuff. It's a great book. However, a little matchstick. Look at that little dark age camp there made out of matchsticks. It's a lot of fun. It's good stuff. However, I looked at it. This paperback book is like $35 right now. $35 for Wargaming on a Budget. It's like I could buy the book or I could have money for Wargaming. Come on now. And I know we're all hurting because, welcome to the 1970s. The decade's so nice. They did it thrice. Paper is just through the roof. I think if you want to buy this Thunes Vision right now, paperback, $25. Like everything is crazy expensive. So, one of my buddies, you're going to get to read that. And what else can I tell you? Like I said, we're going to be doing bigger battles. I showed you the skeletons. I think there was something else I wanted to show you. No, I guess that's it. I guess I forgot to mention that this pirate ship, one of the good things about this big boy, now it is a 14, let's do the math. 7 portholes means 7 guns. It's a 14 gunner. And it does come with a whole bag full of cannons. It does not come with a crew, so you can make whatever nationality you want. We'll be painting those up, kind of mixing them up, and then we're going to be doing some full-blown pirates. Let's check the chat. 1 vote for the hands. Well, and bear in mind, part of it is also that it depends on what you're doing. If we're just playing a game on the tabletop, it doesn't make sense to me to keep cutting back and forth between my face and my hands. We're looking at the game. We're interested in the game. We're exploring the game. And so we're going to focus on the game. And the hands are just kind of an adjunct for what we literally have to do to move things around, roll the dice, and show you how that works. But something like this where we sit down and we have a nice chat, I don't see any reason why wouldn't I show my face? I'm not ashamed of it. Hey, in fact, why would I be ashamed of it, right? Some people have paid me money to stand next to their product because they wanted how good I look to rub off on their product. Yeah, I've done some professional modeling when I wore a much, much, much younger man's clothes. The other thing we can talk about is how these undead play. In the game Dragon. Do I have the game here anywhere? I thought I had the game book floating around here. Apparently not. It's probably buried over there. Yeah, let me go grab it real quick. We're talking Dragon Rampant. And I've played a couple of games with Undead. One was a mixed Undead and kind of cultist force. Just last night, I played a game with full Undead. And what I found is that they're kind of a pain in the neck, to be honest with you. This is a very sophisticated game. It runs smooth. You've seen me play a handful of games. A couple of them I even did things right, which was kind of a change. The Osprey Blue Book series, the good ones, are enormously replayable. And I would put this up with Gaslands as far as replayability is concerned. I have put together battles using a whole bunch of different forces, but what I found last night is that depending on what fantastical rules you use, you can have a very different feel for the army. I mean, a very different feel. For those of you that are not aware, Dragon Rampant uses basically everybody's either rolling 12 dice, and if they're reduced to half hit points, half strength points, you roll 6 dice. But on an attack, if you're really good at attacking, you'll be hitting on 3s, and if you're really bad at it, you'll be hitting on 6s. For every success that you get, you compare that to the armor of the unit that you are attacking. So in other words, hey, I've got a really strong force of elite foot. They're going to be rolling 12d6s, and they're hitting on 3s. 12d6s hitting on 3s. You're going to get an average of 8 hits every time. If they are attacking a really strong force, well, here's an average force. These guys, spearmen, have an armor value of 2. So 8 hits will kill 4 guys. The elite foot, on the other hand, let's bring in our armor boy. They have an armor value of 4. So that same 8 hits would only eliminate 2 strength points. Then you have to do morale. And on morale, for every hit that you've taken through the course of the game, you have to roll, basically you compare to your courage, but you roll 2d6, you subtract for every figure that you've lost, let's say. Undead don't do that. They never test morale. However, remember we talked about if you've got a guy, if you're attacking a unit that's got an armor of 4 and you get 5 hits, that 5th hit is just wasted. It always goes up in increments of whatever that armor value is. However, an undead elite unit, if you have a little fraction left over, that also eliminates a figure. So the good news for undead is that, hey, Hogwash, how you doing? Welcome, Ghostly Gun. So the good news for undead is that they never have to worry about running away when they're half strength, which a lot of guys do. On the other hand, they are always there. You have to literally kill every single figure in that unit, which makes a unit like a unit of 12 zombies. Now, I use these zombies as a thing called Ravening Hordes. Ravening Hordes are terrible. They're slow to act. They only hit on 6s. They defend on 6s. They're just awful. They have an armor value of 1. So when you attack them, every single hit eliminates a figure. However, since they only have an armor value of 1, that undead, the downside of partial hits, doesn't do anything to these guys. They just stand there getting cut down in droves. And even if there's one guy on the table, he's standing there blocking your enemy from being able to achieve any kind of victory conditions. So on the one hand, they're a little bit fragile because they take damage a lot faster. But on the other hand, they stick around longer than most units because there's no chance that they run away when they've been reduced by 1 or 2 points. And really, I guess 3 points is where you have that option for things running away. So undead, those games plan on, if you're going to run a full undead force, plan on those games taking a little bit longer. Also, the zombies are slow to move. So once you summon them, they're basically just going to stand there and be a little bit of a tar pit. Lessons learned, valuable lessons. When I was playing games that were all mounted or heavy on the mounted troops, man, they get stuck in so fast and they just roll so many attack dice that the battles are over a lot quicker. So be aware of that. I do have an unpainted army of rat men that I'm going to paint up. These are not the G-dub style. I didn't buy any poison or guns or anything like that. What kind of creature is this? This is called an African gray. This is a kind of parrot. And for you history guys, my understanding is that the Red Tails, that was the African-American unit of fighter pilots that served in World War II. They adopted the red tail specifically because they were like, hey, these African birds have red tails. We're Africans. We fly. So they painted red tails on their fighter planes. Isn't that great? As I was saying, I'm going to be painting up some rat men, and my rat men I've decided are going to be venomous. So they're going to be a fairly fragile force, but because they are venomous, they are actually going to be punching way above their weight. So I think they're a bit like the way the fantasy orcs were back, at least in the 80s and 90s, the G-dub style, where it's kind of a high risk, high reward situation where they hit hard, but they also take hits pretty hard. We are also going to be playing with some invisibility rules, so they're going to be able to run around and be a little bit more, I mean, you're really going to have to chase them down. And again, the nice thing about Dragon Rampant is that with the 6 or 7 scenarios that are provided in here, I think that like the Undead Force, when it comes to things, some of these scenarios like, Crystal Gale, where you're running around trying to grab gems, they're just so slow moving that I don't think they're going to work well in that scenario. And that may be part of the balancing factor for these guys, that at the end of the day, it really depends on the scenario. Are you guys any good at what we're trying to do here? What's one of the other one? A couple of these I can't really do, but I do have a copy of, I can't really do because I just don't have, like some of those scenarios are predicated on bluffing. They are also predicated on hidden information. So I will nominate a unit, and if that unit crosses the board, I win the game. But you don't know which unit it is. Well, how do you do that as a solo wargamer? I could like randomly nominate one, but it really changes. Let's talk about that. So if I have 6 units and I don't know which one is the ring bearer, how am I supposed to run that army with any kind of a bluffing system? I could randomly nominate one of those units, but that's going to change the nature of the game. It's just not really going to work out so well. I know. I got it. I remember what I wanted to talk to you guys about. A friend of mine, Purple Druid, and Jeff, Russ, I understand that you're not a fan of chainmail. That's fine. If you're not, you can still participate in this. Purple Druid has been running a whole bunch of different war game scenarios using different. Well, let's back up. In our last chainmail campaign, we had a scenario that featured the Broman light cavalry, led by the hero Sir Dude Delabides, trying to rescue 500 prisoners who've been captured by like 150 orcs. So he said, I want to see how that scenario plays out using a whole bunch of different rule systems. Same scenario, different rule systems. Very interesting. He's working with the RPG Sage. Now, he also has a new project coming out. It's called Campaign Carnival 2022. I printed this up in booklet form. Again, it's by Wargame Culture. Look them up as Purple Druid. And it's basically a group activity where we all get together and we play through this campaign. It's a mini campaign of 4 scenarios taken from, I don't remember off the top of my head. Let me look it up. Scenarios for War Games by Jeff Curran. This was in War Games Illustrated number 57 from way back 1992. Whoo, laddie. But the book that I have is just 10 pages. It only has the first scenario. I'm trying to get to this, but I got a couple of other videos I got to knock out first. You might want to give him a look and run through the Campaign Carnival. There are victory conditions, and once you get your forces together, I don't know what the next couple of scenarios are. He only gives you the first one, which is great because it means that you have some expectation of what the campaign is going to be. It's going to color how you run that first scenario. Is this based on the original TSR chainmail? No. Well, that's the beauty of this thing is he just kind of gives you a force makeup, and then you can use any system you want, provided. Well, I'll just tell you. I mean, it's not a murder mystery, right? Provided you want to have 2 forces should be created. An army list should contain a variety of troops representing a flexible force. I do recommend that each list include 1 artillery or heavy weapon, 1 single badass model, and at least 2 character models, a senior officer and a junior officer. So if your rule set can accommodate that, you can use any system you want. And then what you do is you run through the scenario, you write up a brief after action report, maybe some photos, maybe you just do it as theater of the mind, and then you report back to him, and then he can put together a video that says, hey, look, I got 8 guys that ran this, and here are the different results. And now you 8 guys that ran it, he's going to publish the second scenario and say, okay, now here's the second chapter of this campaign. Go to town. What are we talking about in the chat? 1 limitation of solo wargaming. If you can't enforce selective, it says Cornelius, If you can't, oh boy, I got to scroll. Oh, it's getting too many people in the chat because more than 4 is too many, right? Is this playing as a player versus AI? The AI side can't bluff you. Yeah, at least not with solo wargaming guide methods. That's true. Now, that said, the solo wargaming guide, I think it's misnamed somewhat. The amount of assistance that he gives to solo wargamers probably fits into 2 paragraphs. The rest of the guide is a useful reference that I am using because it includes all of the things like here's how to randomize weather charts, here's how to randomize, the basic setup, and but it gives you all the information about, well, this is how fast this kind of troop moves. This is based on terrain. It provides some guidance on how big a unit should be for the generic campaign he does, and he does provide guidance on how to randomize things like commander ability. So really, I just use it more as a campaign reference. The fact that I'm playing solo is just kind of a byproduct of I'm mostly a solo guy. And to be fair, I'm mostly a solo guy because, I mean, it's not by choice, right? It's by logistics and by if I wanted to go down and hook up and find a game at the local game shop, I would have to wear, they are still doing mask mandates. There's no more mandates on the island, but individual stores can require you to wear one, and I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. It's just ridiculous. I'm going to go into a store and play a game for 3 hours with a thing on my face. It ain't going to happen. I drink my tonic water. I take my horse pace. I'm good. I'm fine. And if you're not, stay home because you're the one that has. Don't make it my problem, guys. Yeah, Ghostly Gun. I am talking about mostly playing versus myself. And when it comes to playing versus myself, I don't really have a preference, right? There's 2 ways to do it. One is when you have an AI system similar to what you see in what is the Rangers of Shadowdeep, for example, or is not Space Weirdos. What's the other one? 5 Parsecs from Home. I believe that has an AI system in it. And what's the other sci-fi one that we played on the channel? We didn't much care for. Anyway, that's the one way to do it is against an AI. I really prefer to look. I'm a pretty smart guy. I am very good at putting myself in the other guy's shoes and thinking about how he would approach things. You kind of have to be, as a war gamer. You need to be able to look at the guy across from the table, understand what his plans are so that you can anticipate them and stop them, right? It gets into the whole OODA loop thing. For you guys that know, it's that OODA loop is you observe what's going on. You orient yourself, you make your decision, and then you act. And if you can do that faster than the other guy, if you can get into his OODA loop where he's observing and what he's observing just ain't so, and you're acting to change his so that he's not oriented, or you're changing things so quickly he's unable to come to a decision, right? But you have to be able to understand what inputs he's taking, where his mind is at, what his decision-making process is like in order to be able to disrupt that decision-making process. That's just basic war game thought patterns that I don't think we talk about often enough in wargaming channels. And maybe that's because that's part of that game beneath the game. When you're dealing with a rule set like this, you're dealing with, I don't know, it's a 64 pages, but you're fundamentally, it's a 30-page rule book with 30 pages of options. This is what we primarily talk about, but there's also that game beneath the game where you're doing the kind of bluffing and trying to obfuscate and hidden information. And from time to time, we do talk about the fact that as you stand there hovering over a table with a bird's eye view, you have a lot more information than a commander on the ground would. And, that fog of war, people talk about that within the rules situation, but really the foggiest thing you have is the decision-making process of the guy across from the table from you. You should be able to put yourself into the other guy's shoes. As a solo war gamer, it is just as valid for me to line up 2 forces, one on this side of the table, one on this side of the table. And when it's this guy's activation, I'm thinking, what is in his interest? What is in his best interest? What does he want to do? And then when it's this guy's turn, what does he want to do? What's in his best interest? And you eliminate that ability to kind of interfere with the OODA loop. But if you are able to kind of compartmentalize, you should be able to. Jeff Russ makes a good point. You play the players. If you can compartmentalize, and then you should be able to do that. And that's one of those life skills that I think pays off huge dividends in the real world. Whenever you're involved in a negotiation, you need to be thinking about, well, what does the other guy want to get out of this? How do I make him understand that what he really wants out of this is to give me what I want out of this? And you know, I don't want to spill too many beans. I was on the phone with a company and I was talking to them and trying to negotiate something, and on behalf of my wife. I brought her into the conversation, and she said, "Oh, well, you know, we don't have to do it that way." And I stopped. I said, "Time out, sweetheart. I love you, but I'm putting pressure." And the other guy, like the company representative, is on the line, and I said, "I love you, but I am putting as much pressure on this guy to give me what we want as possible. Please don't give him a reason to say no." She said, "Oh, okay. I just, wanted to make it as easy as possible." I was like, no. I'm not paying this guy to make it easy. Okay. I'm paying this guy to make it right. And then, we got it resolved, and we actually did manage to get it resolved. After the wife hung up and I was talking to the representative again, I said, "I'm sorry you had to hear that, but that's kind of," she kind of laughed. It was like, no, you're perfectly straight. Cause she, as a good customer service representative, was able to step out of like her box and her boss's mindset and to say, okay, where's this guy coming from? What does he really want out of this? And I didn't get everything I wanted, but we were able to come to a mutually agreeable solution. So and I honestly think that the skills from standing around a table directly translated into being able to get more out of that company they might have wanted. Going back to the chat, Mr. Barnes just came from watching Chosen Men 400-point Vanguard scenario. Let me take a look at that real quick. Chosen Men. Here we go. Chosen Men by Mark Latham. Fantastic little rule set. I really need to get back into this. It has a very kind of old school G-dubs vibe to it with the way most of these things work. The Vanguard scenario is great. I borrowed a scenario from John Lambshead. He's got a great secure the cannon scenario, and I ran a Chosen Men scenario for that. But I do, I want to get back to it, but I want to try some Napoleonics in bigger battles first. I think this is game, and that's one of the other things we should talk about when it comes to solo wargaming. It really depends on the rule set. As far as being able to step out of your mindset and step into somebody else's mindset. When you've got a game like Fistful of Lead, it's a little bit harder. And again, Fistful of Lead, one of the great things about Fistful of Lead that I've never been able to tap into is it's a card-driven activation system where you only reveal the cards you've got as you activate. So the GM or whoever calls out, "Hey, anybody playing kings? Anybody playing queens? I don't know what the other 4 cards you have are. You play a king, you still got 4 cards. I don't know what order you're going to activate your guys in." That said, it does work. This game does work fairly well as a solo game because you look at all the cards. You just go, okay, well, who's going first? Who's going now? Who's going when? And it's just kind of a different game. But I think games like Dragon Rampant, where you literally time out, it's your turn. Okay, you failed an activation. It's your turn. I think it's a little bit easier, a little bit less cognitive load to be able to kind of flip the record over and then flip it back over and not have to be trying to play them all at the same time. Let's see. Much thanks to the Absolute Emperor scenarios. Again, a fantastic little Napoleonic game that doesn't get talked about nearly often enough. If you are looking at for more content on Absolute Emperor, go look at the Armchair Dragoons. They do live plays of those. In fact, they had the author come in and talk about how the game works, and they taught me a number of little tricks about how the game works that I didn't quite pick up on. So highly recommend. In fact, I highly recommend you go and looking at the Armchair Dragoons just in general. I look at it as kind of a... So the guy that runs it, Jim Alzarski, what he does is he puts on it's Tabletop Simulator. And because it's tabletop simulator, he doesn't face any of the logistical or real world problems the rest of us do. He has had tables that are like 38 feet across by like 22 feet deep. Now, you couldn't possibly play with a 22-foot channel unless you've got like Mr. Fantastic, working with you. But you can do it in Tabletop Simulator. And he is able to put together some very large scenarios. In fact, he did like almost a Featherstonian campaign where the table was just so big with so many different figures. It was a lot like, and he used Snappy Nappy for that one, which is a great call because you're marching armies back and forth. It was a lot like an epic battle, but it took like 20 hours. So the Armchair Dragoons, it's just a complete live play of the guys, and there's a whole lot of should I move this guy here or should I move him there? I edit that out of my videos because I'm not doing it live. I'm editing it, right? But no solo RPG guy. Owlbears are still my favorite creature to hate. But when you're watching those videos, I will actually put it on almost like ASMR. Is that do I understand what that is? To where I'm mowing the lawn, I can't watch the video, but I just kind of hang out and I just listen to how they're playing, and you make a comment every once in a while. Good stuff. Or if I'm driving on a long car ride, I can put it on and it's just some noise in the background. So again, Armchair Dragoons, highly recommend it. I learned a lot about the Absolute Emperor from them. Neil, stop scrolling for the bird. Remain for the mouse. And for those of you that don't know, that name should look familiar. You've seen it in this podcast already. Neil, I'm going to be doing a giveaway here in a little bit. We got 16 viewers. For those of you that missed it, somehow I wound up with 2 copies of this. So I'm so excited that I did, because it means I get to keep one for myself and I get to share one with my friend. If you want to buy a copy of this, go to pilumpress.com. Is it Pilum-Press? You're not eligible, Neil. What else are we talking about? I have not looked at Sharp's practice. Not a big fan of the Lardies. The couple of books that I looked at, I had no clue how to read them. Just an absolute nightmare of organization. And every time I watch a Lardy game being played online, it looks a little something like this. Here's a card, here's a card, here's a card, something random happens. All right, your turn. Oh, that's the end of the turn. Now we shuffle them. We play a card with a card on the table, somebody moves, card on the table, somebody moves. There's like no connection between the cards and the flags and the thing. And nobody ever talks about how that mechanic works. I don't know. So when I see Sharp's practice, I just keep on scrolling, guys. I'm sorry. I'm just not a fan of the Lardy's rules. I know they're enormously popular with a whole lot of people for some reason. I just don't know what it is. Frequent watcher and Night Watch fan. Oh, speaking of Night Watch, hey, did you know? Oh, Patty Todoroff. I just found this out the other day. I have been wanting to get into Hardwired for a long time. Who's talking about that? Walt 65. You're going to mention Sharp Practices, large skirmish. Yeah, 30 figures per side. Whatever. Okay. We've moved on. Right. Patrick Todoroff, Hardwired. That is a cyberpunk game. But he re-released it, and he didn't tell me. It's called Exploit Zero now. It's the exact same cover. It's the exact same game. He just changed the name from Hardwired to Exploit Zero. And this is do we call it a reskin? It's the same basic mechanic as the fantasy game of Night Watch. Free move, D10, D68, get 3 actions. But instead of drinking potions, you're doing, and I'm not real big on the cyberpunk genre. So you're using these things called CAPS, which are, what does CAP stand for? Combat Augmentation Programs instead. Yeah, fun evocative art, man. It just harkens back. It might, technically wonderful, almost sketch-like in quality, harkens back to the best of the TSR era. I don't know about this cyberpunk stuff. I'll be doing a straight sci-fi, I think. But you got drones and you got grenades and you got to hack into things. And some of these, it doesn't have like a full-blown campaign the way that Night Watch did. But we can make this work. This is gonna be a lot of fun. We're not gonna. I ain't gonna be running what you call it, Black Raven, the crew of the Black Raven. I got to put them on hiatus for a while. Playing Black Raven with what do they call it? Galactic Heroes was kind of it was kind of disheartening. I've grown so attached to those guys, and Galactic Heroes is so deadly that I just was like, I can't do this to my boys anymore. So we're gonna, and I also want to get my Black Raven painted before my actual Black Raven spaceship painted before we bring them back out. It's coming, but we may go ahead and do some more just kind of generic sci-fi. I still need to show you guys Rogue Planet, not Rogue Stars, Rogue Planet. It's a wonderful little game. It might be a bridge too far. It has a lot of really unusual mechanics that I think in any normal game would be great, but by putting them all together, it might be a little bit too much. Because if your combat is a little bit too creative and your movement is a little too creative and your force selection is a little too creative, it's like, bro, that's maybe, just give me 2 new things at a time. But we'll see. You'll be the judge of that. There's only like 1 or 2 videos for Rogue Planet on YouTube so far. So we're going to try to fill in that gap as well. And how many guys we got? So this is, thank you, Rhino. I appreciate your patience with the animals. Hey, what are you biting me for, sweetheart? The Xbox that you hear in the background, that's her. Bloop, bloop. But she's being very shy right now. She's getting the attention she needs. That's the funny thing is these birds don't make noise if you're paying attention to them. So it's only when you turn on the camera that they decide to start freaking out. Let's give this book away. I don't know how to do this. We got what do we got? 18 people in the chat. So here's what I'm going to do. Why don't you guys start throwing a number between 1 and 20 into the chat? And whoever the first one, and I'm going to roll a D20, and whoever the first guy is to call out what that D20 roll is, I'm going to send you. Where's my dice? Maybe I'm not going to do that if I can't find my D20. Oh, here she is. Did you guys have any questions for me? Alternative armies rules to try. I have not. Their weird fantasy Napoleonics is called. Oh, what is it? I'm drawing a blank now. What is it called? I've tried a couple of their. They have the small little booklets that uses a thing called Elan, and I don't know. It doesn't work great. It doesn't have a whole lot of flavor. I wasn't impressed. Let's see. Cool pudding bird chirps. I love we can take traits from other books of Fistful of Lead to create our own characters. Oh yeah, we're gonna start mixing genres. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be so much fun. The topic, Stanley Barnes says the mention of TSR makes me reminisce about AD&D. Oh, does it? Kaboom! I'm a huge fan. Rules is written. Read the effing manual, people. Play the game as described. It will take you places you cannot imagine. All right, so here's our. Let me see if I can do this without ending the stream. We're going to aim. Whoa, no feet picks on this one. I'm just going to have to take my word for it. We come up with an 11, and we'll see if anybody got it. If not, we'll just kind of redo the process. So we got 12, 5, 17, 8, 18, 24. Nobody called 11 yet. All right. So in a few more minutes, go ahead and keep shouting numbers, and I'll roll it again here in a couple of minutes. We got 15 minutes left to talk. This is the other way to keep her quiet. Oh, big stretch, huh, Bird? There we go. I have more than a few rule books. Boy, this is the best thing ever, tearing up paper. I have more than a few. Do I have any handy here? Rule books that have that are all half eaten and torn up. What else can I tell you? Man, that's really all I had. Exploit 0. So unless you guys have any questions, Flintlock. Thank you. Who comes through with the Flintlock? Hethwill War Games. I should have known. Hethwill's great. If you guys aren't watching Hethwill's channel, what are you even doing? Hethwill's great. I think he's Portuguese. I like his accent. It's not. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I gotta be careful. I don't want to be too insulting, but it is fun to listen to because he talks like. Well, remember, I'm in the United States, and I am in a place that has a lot of like first and second generation Americans, and they've all got accents. It actually reminds me a lot. There's a lot of Portuguese. So For those of you who don't know, Portugal, when Napoleon came stomping in, of course, they've always been great traders, right? Phenomenal sailors, and as a result, great traders. So there's Portuguese all over the world. And when Napoleon came into Spain to put his own guy on the throne, the royal family basically took the family jewels and just boop, skated off. So even here in Hawaii, there's a huge Portuguese influx. Like when you go to the Golden Arches and you get the breakfast, you can get Spam, eggs, and rice, but you can also get Portuguese sausage. And so there's tons of Portuguese. And Hethwell, good to hear you. So just be aware that that your culture plays a vital role in keeping things running smoothly here in Hawaii. All right, we're going to try this again. We got some more D20s roll up. I'm going to roll it again and again. Whoever was the first to get this number right, this time we're going to roll. It's going to be a number 2. Did anybody? It's there. There's the 2. I'll zoom in right there. So who called the 2? You're getting a free book. Scrolling down. This makes for good viewing, I'm sure. 18, 12, 13, 9, 14, 3. I thought 4, 4, 5, 9, 10. Wow, we're doing great here, aren't we? Boy, this works so well. Jinx, all right. We'll give it a couple more minutes. You guys got to fill out the D20. Any other questions? Taking over the world from South Africa. Stanley's South Africa. What is my favorite hex encounter game? Oh, man. This may sound crazy, but I probably played Barbarian Prince. Does that count? It's a solo game. It's got a counter. That's a real winner. I've played that probably more than any other hex encounter game there is. Second after that is probably One Page Bulge. I know it has a bit of a mixed reputation, at least it did when it came out. I think it probably has a better reputation these days. If I understand correctly, I haven't looked at it. I haven't played it in probably 20 years. If I understand correctly, Steve Jackson Games did the Ogre / Car Wars trick where they re-released a deluxe edition for $50 on Kickstarter, and now you can get a copy of One Page Bulge, the deluxe edition, for like probably $400 in a box that's like this big. That's what Steve Jackson does. Can't say as I blame him. Favorite mechanic? That's kind of an obscure question. If you were to ask me right now, I don't know. Oh, no, I do know. Back in college, we played the heck out of, sorry for the bump. We played the heck out of a spaceship combat game called Silent Death. And Silent Death, every gun had 2 dice, maybe 2d6 if it was a weak gun and inaccurate, maybe 2d8, maybe 2d10. And then you would add a 3rd die for your pilot, your gunner. So if your gunner was a really good shooter, he would be rolling a d10 to the mix. If he was really bad, he'd roll a d4. So you would roll three dice to see if you hit. If you did hit your opponent, the damage that you would do depended again on the kind of gun that you had. So a really accurate but weak gun might be 2d10 low. When you throw your 3 dice, the lowest number is the amount of damage that you would do. Now, of course, that led to some weirdness where a slow-moving target that was easy to hit, you would just wind up plinking at a lot. Whereas a little zoomy, like the Vipers, you had to roll high just to get them. So even if you hit, that low die was probably going to be, a higher number. And, those Vipers would zoom around until you just like blew on them, and then they'd blow up. That is a great one. Yep, bird eating paper. Yep, it's just blank for now. I can tell you about one more thing that we're going to be doing. Who solo? You want one per customer solo? Well, of course, solo. Yeah, you know what? I'll allow it, solo. That's thinking outside the box. We like that here on the channel. So this time it's going to happen. And I rolled a 1. So I'm going to scroll back through the chat. And the first guy that did 1, and if nobody did, solo gets the big enchilada. So once again, we're scrolling through 12, 5, 17, 8, 18, 20, 12, 13, 9, 14, 13, 19. We're looking for the 1. 4, 4, 16, 19. Keep on trucking, baby. There's that 11. That was after I rolled the 11, though, so we got to keep on going. Yep, PT 213. And correct me if I'm wrong, Solo RPG guy, I'm sending you the book. Unless somebody, I'll go back through the live play and see if there isn't anyone, but unless anything else happens. There's one other thing I can show you. Here's a little teaser for the next big campaign we're going to be doing. Kind of here on the channel and kind of not. In our chainmail campaign that is currently ongoing. Now, I'll tell you, I'm done. I've filmed the last one. Episode 17 will be the last. We'll talk about the aftermath. In fact, here you go. Remember I was talking about, you see this? This is my copy of the Solo Wargaming Guide. You see that those torn pages? Yeah, I'm looking at you, Biscotti. Hazards of War. All right, so Chainmail campaign is concluded. Wraps up episode 17. The next Solo Wargaming Guide campaign that we're going to do is not going to be played by me. I sat down, and I got a whole video coming up, but just to kind of give you an idea of what I did. I said, look, while we're doing the Chainmail campaign, I had a number of people go, hey, that looks like a lot of fun. I want to play too. And they ran a couple of scenarios. And I said, wow, that was kind of cool. Do you want to do like one of the actual canonical battles? I'll send you the forces that meet and the general terrain. And then you send me what the results are. And we'll just roll that in. Now, again, Armchair Dragoons, we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, they ran a chainmail battle. Actually, I think it was Dragon Rampant, and reported back to me. And that became part of the chainmail campaign. All right, so it's not chainmail, it's not solo. You get the idea. And then Purple Druid over there at Wargame Culture, he did the same thing. In fact, I had 8 people. I said, I got this prisoner rescue scenario. It's a little below the scale that I'm doing. Do you guys want to run it? 8 people stepped up and said, yeah, I'll do that for you. So we did a little comparison. Here's the 8 people. Here's how they ran it. And, we picked one at random to be the canonical. So I haven't quite worked out all the details yet, but I said, well, let me go ahead and build a campaign. And because this book is largely written for horse and musket, all I'm going to be tracking is horse, foot, and guns. What are we going to do? You got it, Solo RPG guy. It's a done deal. So I said, look, I want to do a real world map this time, though. I don't want to just do a couple of lines on a map. I'm going to do the real world. So I rolled a D50. Now, if you go on like Google, you can say, give me a random number between 1 and 50. The number that it gave me was 42. Go down the list of states. All right, this campaign is going to take place in Tennessee. I said, all right, well, how many counties are in Tennessee? There's 93 counties in Tennessee. Hey, Google, give me a random number between 1 and 93. And Google said, all right, fine, like 86. So I counted up from the bottom this time and found that the 86th county is Union County in Tennessee. So I went to the USGS.gov. That's the U.S. Geological Survey. Their website, you can download any map that they have available, and they have a lot of historic maps as well, which comes in handy for us wargamers. So I said, all right, well, let me take a look at the map of Union County. And Union County is tiny. It's only like 7 or 8 miles across, maybe 10 miles north to south. This is a eastern county. If we had gotten like one of those West Texas counties, we would have been fine with one county. I said, I need to expand this a little bit. So I looked at the map and I figured the best scale was 1 to 100,000. That scale of map will give you about 100 miles by 100 miles, 10,000 square miles. That's a really good map for a war game campaign, right? And then if you look at it, what you'll find, so this is the map. This is a 1 to 250,000. And the map is great because you see all these little striations through here. It's kind of like a basin and range. You've got all these ridges running like this. And I looked at it a little closer. I said, hey, you know what? This is Knoxville down here. Right here, this little yellow here is Knoxville. And then I looked up here, and this is Johnson City and Kingsport. I said, okay, good. So what we can do, and this is actually the 250,000, 1 to 250. So I said, well, let's zoom in on this area here. And I found a little town right here in the center, kind of halfway between. I said, they need something to fight over. give me an important bridge or a crossroads. And what I came up with was a little town called Sneedville. So we're going to do, and that's the pink, and it's kind of right halfway between. And if you put the border, as you see here, and I know you can't see it very good. Like I said, this is a preview. So what you're looking at here is the next solo war game campaign that we're going to be doing. It's going to be the Battle of Knoxville, trying to defend Sneedville from the rapacious King's Portions. And it's taking place on a real-world map. You can see here, this is Cherokee Lake right here. What are the lakes we got? This is North Lake. And what is this one down here? Douglas Lake down here. So what I'm going to do, and you can see I've already figured out, and the reason I put the boundary where I did is it gives me a roughly even number of communities on either side of the map. So we're going to have an even battle. And what I'm going to do is, in a series of about 2 or 3 videos, I'm going to set that campaign up. And then I'm going to ask people, hey, does anybody want to run this first battle for me? But more than that, I'm going to use something like polls, or we'll hash it out in the comments section where we say, all right, what is Kingsport's strategy here? What is Knoxville's strategy here? So we're going to do kind of a group solo war game campaign together. And I don't know, like the one Chosen Men campaign we did Chosen Men on campaign, and we generated like 3 or 4 battles. It didn't work so well. I'm not a game designer. There's a reason I'm not trying to hawk any wares or sell you any games. I write, on the side a little bit, but this might all just like spontaneously combust and blow up, and it's just a big failure. I'm okay with that. It's a useful experiment. But if you guys are interested in playing a battle on your tabletop that then gets folded into a campaign that a lot of different people are playing, we're going to be able to have, I think, an amazing group experience together. So stick around. Should be a lot of fun. And we've got, what are we at here? I wanted this to go for, my eyeballs don't know where to check the timing on this. We're at 58 minutes. We've only got like 1 or 2 minutes left. Does anybody have anything else they wanted to ask? Played in the Dragoons game. Jeff. Oh, Jeff. Yeah. And thank you for that. It was great to watch. I watched the whole thing start to finish. If memory serves. Hey, Jeff, who were you in that game? I honestly can't remember. Were you the Orcs or were you the Bromans? Neil Durando stirring the pot. He says you're going to play a Matrix game. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence about Matrix games. I'm still reading up, still doing some research. I know just enough to have very strong opinions that are likely to change in a week when I read a different book. Good night to you, Stanley. Thanks for sticking by. Oh, you too. Oh, yeah, this is the star of the show. This is our. Are you grooming, buddy? Nope. Okay. All right. I'll leave you alone. I don't want to get bit. Broken command. Oh, yeah. There you go. Yep. Wardrobe says you need players. I'm in. Yeah. So look for that. That'll be coming out in probably about mid-July is when I'll drop the first video on that, and then it'll probably move a little bit slower. I think he's talking about our war for Sneedville. This is going to be in Tennessee. And again, I'm not going to tell you what rules to use. I'm just going to tell you, if you want to do a battle using Sharp's practice, for some reason, go right ahead. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say, look, here's how many regiments of foot, we are going to be tracking both. We have both sides. So like I said, horse, foot, and guns, light, medium, and heavy. And then I am going to be tracking both sides have 2 veteran units and 3 green units. Everybody else is just going to be standard soldiers. But even just with that little bit, there is a character that develops for the Knoxvillians versus the King Portions. And no spoilers, but for example, if one of those guys, both of their veteran units are heavy horse, okay, great. This is clearly a culture that values horses. Okay, and maybe it comes from, hey, look, right? To be honest with you, I keep saying Tennessee, but the boundaries here actually do include Kentucky. So there's some real world stuff you can roll in there. Go, oh, look, here's what's this community up here. Barberville, Kentucky, Pineville, Kentucky. What if they're really good at horses, right? The Kentucky Derby is in Kentucky for a reason, people. But just that little bit of randomness, that's how we do, right? We say we're going to let the dice decide, and then we have to understand and we have to interpret what the dice have told us. So when you see that video coming up in it's like 4 or 5 weeks, it'll be on a Monday. Monday's our campaign day. You can start seeing patterns develop, and it's all random and it's all noise, but we are a pattern recognizing animal. It's one of the reasons we devote so much energy to these big brains of ours, because we look at patterns, and being able to identify them allows us to chase down the prey on the Serengeti, or in Middle Europe, depending on which version of science you want to believe, or the Caucasus Mountains, depending on which version of the origins of man you want to listen to these days. Hey guys, I have been doing this for about an hour. I think we've talked about all the stuff, answered all the questions. Escape Reality Hobbies, thanks for stopping by. McMurray, thanks for stopping by. It's always good to see you. I'm glad we're able to do this in the daytime for once. I am kind of on vacation, taking some time to have a little peaceful day of listening to the construction in that neighbor in the morning and that neighbor in the evening. It's been wonderful. But hey, I'm glad we were able to get this done without the roosters going off. There they go. Welcome to the menagerie. We'll be back. I think we'll do one more of these maybe next Tuesday as well. Keep an eye out. I'll put a notice on the YouTube, on the Twitter. Hethwill, I'm going to get with you. I'm going to send you that book. I'm praying for you.